Today guys, I'm going to walk you through this off-grid solar system. Everything from batteries, what inverter I picked, MPPT solar charge controller. And just so you guys can see and compare it to your system. Or if you just need some inspiration if you want to build an off-grid system yourself. But this one is a little bit special. The reason it's special is because it uses e-bike batteries. And not new ones, only recycled e-bike batteries. What I basically do, I test e-bike batteries, take apart cells, and the good batteries that are 36 volts end up in the system. So this battery is a total of 27 kilowatt hours. And throughout the video, I will open the boxes up and you guys will see how it looks inside. So I built this more just for fun and do some experiments with. So I'll walk you through the whole system, how I build it, what parts I use, what solar I use, and then go through all the numbers, how much I paid and how much we were saving. Alright, you've probably noticed that these look like Tesla batteries, but they're not. This is just 1.4 millimeters steel. I build these boxes on. I love Tesla's design, so I was like, let's just go with it. And I can start off by saying all of these batteries are from the recycling centers. I haven't bought a single battery. I'll open these boxes up and show you how it looks inside, where the batteries are from. Here's where everything starts. This is the breaker from the solar panels. The solar panels are coming down here into this breaker box that then goes into the Sky Blue MPPT solar charge controller. I have a full video on this one, so you can go and check that out because it's actually a good controller for the price. And here we have 6 of the 500 watt solar panel and one 12 volt that doesn't go to the system at all, but yeah, it's there. So 2 panels are wired in series, and then we have 3 of those 2 series groups. So we have 3 groups in parallel, which produces 80 volts. But long story short, it's a good unit. This battery is a 36 volt battery because it is from scooter and e-bike batteries. And if we just look closely at the unit, what I've added, because I've had this solar system for over 2 years now, I added an extra fan because it was overheating like crazy, and that little fan is actually keeping it kind of cool. So if we just look at all the settings, it's midday now, so we are producing 1.6 kilowatts, and it's in September, so peak in summer is around 2 kilowatts. Here's the battery voltage and how many amps we are pushing into the battery. Here's the solar panel voltage and how many watts we're producing. And this is the annual production, so how much we've produced since we put this unit in. So almost 4 megawatt hours. And then we have the temperature. We used to get the temperature of 70 degrees Celsius, so now we are cool to the touch also, so that's fine. Then we are going to go down to the inverter. I started with the 2.5 kilowatt inverter, but it tripped all the time. Our house started using more power than the inverter could handle, so I just went for the biggest one I could find. This is the 5 kilowatt inverter, so we are running everything from lights to compressors, washing machine, everything you can imagine. And as of right now, we can see battery voltage and how much watts the house is using. And this is with reactive power also, so it calculates kind of differently from real power. So if you go down here, we have the main power output that goes into this breaker, because this breaker is kind of interesting. It goes through its own RCD, through its own breakers, that then goes to each room in the house. So we have an outlet in each room just for this off-grid system. So if power goes out, I can use that power. But then in winter, when here in Sweden we don't have so much solar, we can use this thing. This is mainly from the grid that plugs into this breaker box. So I've also done some grounding from the solar panels to the MPPT, to the negative of the inverter, and to the house's ground. So we don't want any different potential or floating voltage between the solar system and the house power, because that can be dangerous if 2 appliances are connected beside each other, so they can become a potential there. So just for the sake of simplicity, While we did our renovation in our house, we now have two types of outlets, one black one and one gray one. It's the grid tied and this is the off grid. So each room has one of these outlets which we plug all our appliances into, so we don't have to rely on the grid if there's a power outage, which never happens. And in our breaker panel, we're also feeding a couple of these breakers, which are the main lights in the house, also off of solar. So one lead is coming from the solar system in here, and then we just swap these breakers to solar power. And this breaker goes straight into the garage, the one you saw before. So it back feeds to all these breakers and all of these outlets that are around the house during the winter, so we don't have to switch anything up. So these boxes, they have their own circuit breaker. I don't have any fuse since all the batteries inside of here, there's a bunch of stacked 36 volt batteries in here, have its own dolly BMS. So that will kind of keep it protected. And while I was installing these boxes, there is around 1 centimeter of space from the wall. So in case of a fire, still, if a fire occurred when this battery is fully charged, everything would still blow up. But just like a safety margin, since this is a dry wall, since this is a 27 kilowatt hour battery and it's huge, each stack is just that divided by 4. And I did divide the batteries up, 1 because it looks pretty, and 2 because of safety. Because if all the batteries were in one big box and something went wrong, the whole thing would burn down. But right now we have smaller chunks of energy in all of these, so it's a little bit safer, I would say. And here is the BMS for each battery, which includes a temperature sensor. Just to show you how much batteries in my small town are getting thrown away. Even these big electric car batteries. Here we have more batteries, all waiting for me to recycle them. So now let's open the boxes up. And before I do that, let me show you the design of it. I did make them with the design of a little bit of breathing room. So they have like a little gap over here and also gaps around here. And that's just if something bursts inside of it, so it doesn't create a bunch of pressure and explode. So this is like a little vent system over here. So now let's open these boxes up. All boxes are exactly the same in how they're designed. So you need to unscrew these screws under here, and there is the same set of screws on the top. And then it's just to pop the front cover off. And after all the screws are removed, you just grab it and remove the front panel. This is how it looks, the steel. And here we have it. I know a lot of you will be, this is a big fire hazard. It might look like a big fire hazard. All batteries are fused, have their own BMS on. And I will soon show you the procedure of how I look at them and just check if they're still safe. Remember, I've done a cycle test on all of these to see if they hold charge and everything is fine, then they get dropped into the boxes. And guys, if you're professional DIY powerwall builders, please feel free to put down in the comments what you would improve with this system. So this is how the full battery looks. As you can see, each of these batteries are different. I've already showed you that one. This one is from the exact same e-bike battery, so all are just connected in parallel. The big wire there. Then we have this one. It's primarily made from scooter batteries, but then I just popped in the rest of the batteries I had. And here is actually these batteries that I showed you in the beginning of the video. Here I did some cell repairs and they are just mushed in here. And then we have connectors here. What you guys could argue about this system is that each battery have a different capacity. For example, these ones are 1 kilowatt hour, these are 390 watt hours. So if I pull full load from the inverter, this one will discharge with more amps than these ones. So each ones, as I said before, have the same BMS on them. But after doing some tests, the load balancing isn't going over what's recommended for the BMS or the cables. So I've dimensioned everything so it's safe and not overheating, even though we have different batteries. So then what's the cost of this system? So batteries, I got them for free. I just bought MPPT, almost all the wiring, the sine wave inverter, the boxes, solar panels. I actually found for $60 each on Facebook Marketplace. It was just like a wholesale, so I just bought as many as they had, which was 6 of them, and put them on top of the roof. So we landed around $2,600 for a whole system, which is super cheap with such a big battery. And of course, I cannot put power back into the grid since we don't have that equipment. But this is a nice way to save money. So this is what I usually do. I open it once a month and just basically goes through this procedure. I take my temperature gun and I check for any hot spots. Nothing there. There is a little hot spot over there, but that's just from the wiring. And this is basically what I do. But overall it looks good. I will go through it a little bit more carefully than this, but this is basically how the procedure works. What I would improve myself in this system, I would remove all of this. The reason why these batteries are even here, it's because they're from the recycling center, and I noticed there are so many that are still good. All of them are more than 95% capacity left. Don't overheat and don't have so much internal resistance, so it's like they're gonna be good for solar. But what I would do for next project, put solar panels that are not the 70 volts, but solar panels that are a couple of 100 volts, with the inverter that can plug into the grid. Do islanding also. I would need a new panel for the house though. And buy an electric car battery that can plug into that inverter. So it's in one system and maybe up to 70 kilowatt hours. So I don't have to monitor all small batteries. But this is a good learning project. And I hope you guys also learned and have some inspiration from the system. Even though it looks kind of dangerous. Just to see what you can do with batteries. And especially those from recycling centers. So for example, now I want to charge my scooter. I come here, I hold the resistor button, it pre-charges, wait until the fan stops, and I flip the switch. Then I take, let's do the 3 because it's 41 volts. That's to charge this 36 volt battery. I will need though to have the input voltage needs to be lower than the output voltage, so that's good. And then I just plug in my scooter, and then we are pulling power straight from the batteries that are getting charged by the solar. So still September, it's almost midday, 1.7 kilowatts. Before I actually only had these 2 batteries, and I noticed in the summer that were full all the time. So it's like, let's add 2 more so I can buffer that energy and use it when it's cloudy, or maybe charge a real electric car with it, so we can buffer energy so you don't waste any energy from the solar. So now we're actually using everything we produce, puts into the batteries. And if I see that the battery is almost full, I try to charge scooters or do laundry so we don't waste energy. And here's an example of how the DC to DC charger works. So right now there's no sun outside. We're producing barely anything, 8-9 watts. So I routed a cable to my scooter, and we are now charging at 10 amps, 800 watts. So I basically have unlimited power with this charging setup. I can charge whatever, the bike, the scooter, with the same voltage. And then of course it's adjustable, so I adjust the amperage here and I adjust the voltage here. There's a little like spinning module in here that you can adjust, and then it shows the voltage here. Alright guys, so we have the specs over here. We can just basically look at the numbers up here. We've had the system for a little bit over 1.5 years, so 2 summers, and we paid it off 36%. And if we press on this, we paid 25,000 crowns, which is around $2,500 for this whole system. And it saved us 9,100 crowns, which is around $910. And we can see total produced 3.78 megawatt hours max, and that's a little bit of other stuff. Then we can see all the months are down here. So we are producing in May, we're producing a bunch of energy, and then December and January it's like completely useless. I can say that I do log all this data myself, so I go every night and check and then put it into Google Sheets. So here when we started in March, we started with these many kilowatt hours. So if we scroll down to the summer, this is summer, we're producing 16 every day almost. Then if we go down to winter, like 0 kilowatt hours, this continues. And then this is this summer. It was a little bit jumpy with some cloudy days. And now we are in 4th of September, and this is the last week. So it's nothing crazy, but you do save a lot on your bill. We use around 5 megawatt hours a year for our house, and we produce around 2 megawatt hours each year. So for that price, it's quite good. And then we have to talk about the battery size compared to what we are actually using in the house. Because in the beginning we started with one small battery over here. It was from recycled laptop batteries, 1.6 kilowatt hours, a 48 volt one. So we had a completely different solar setup, different inverter, different MPPT. Then we scaled up to 2 batteries, which was 11 kilowatt hours, and I felt that the battery charged up too quickly and we couldn't even use up all that energy throughout the day. We just wasted energy during the day. And then I upgraded to this big system. It's the simple fact that I had so much battery, so I would put everything I have in the solar system and we'll see how it goes. So during the day we usually use around 7 kilowatt hours, and that's including with the inverter losses, which is 60 watts. During 24 hours, I think it's like 1.5 kilowatt hours. So that's a huge downside with the big inverter. We're wasting so much energy as heat. So the fan is blowing like crazy, and the unit it's maybe 30 degrees Celsius. But what is the load? 600 watts. That's because the lights are on in the garage and a couple of things in the house. But still, during the summer, even though we produce 17 kilowatt hours a day and use 7, we store maybe 10 a day. And then when it's sunny outside, I drive the scooters more, charge an electric car, so that balances out everything. But when you're not using power and just idling the house, cooking food, lights, laundry, it's perfectly balanced during the summer with the batteries. Even if we have cloudy days, we have around 2 to 3 days of energy backup, which I'm very happy about. So 27 kilowatt hours of storage, perfect I would say. 1 month during winter, we get as much energy as 1 full cycle on these batteries, which is nothing. That's why the system is off. And I turn it on from time to time just to drain the battery so it doesn't sit at 100%. And honestly, we do kinda shallow cycles. During the night, we maybe use up 10 to 20%. So we're not cycling the batteries at all almost. So I'm trying to use as much energy as I can during the day so we don't have to cycle the batteries. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and let me know down in the comments what parts you use for your system.